So this day was like a horrible day. I had meetings from, let's say, like 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. I met with HarperCollins and Penguin Random House and Emily Bestler books, and like back to back to back. So it started with like meeting an editor for a green juice and her telling you why she couldn't do the book, and then meeting someone for a coffee and them telling you why they couldn't do the book.
Today's guest is Chloe Caldwell, and she's going to tell us a submission horror story.
This was like a big agent who represents all of these writers you and I both love. So I thought that that was like my ticket. It's never, whatever you think is your ticket, it's not.
Chloe is full of publishing wisdom. In this episode, she shares that submission nightmare and the dream scenario of how her iconic queer novella Women got picked up for re-release by Harper Perennial, no less, as well as her tips for writers trying to stay sane while on submission. There's nothing to writing. All you do is sit down at a typewriter and bleed. Welcome to The Bleeders, a podcast and support group about book writing and publishing. I'm writer and podcaster Courtney Kosak, and each week I'll bring you new conversations with authors, agents, and publishers about how to write and sell books.
Hi, my name is Chloe Caldwell. I'm the author of the essay collection Legs Get Led Astray, the novella Women, the essay collection I'll Tell You in Person, and the memoir The Red Zone.
And Bleeders, I am thrilled to tell you that Chloe has a new book, Trying, a memoir. I have read an advanced reader copy. It is so freaking good. You need to order your copy. And of course, I have talked to Chloe for a previous interview on this podcast, which she talked about becoming an author of her first 4 books and how she did it the indie way. And it's such a good episode. So I highly recommend you check that out after you listen to this conversation. Okay, let's get into it. So everyone can and should listen to your first interview where we talked about what a rebel indie writer you are.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess I don't know which of those ever went on submission, but I saw your latest book, was like on Publishers Marketplace and like had an official thing. So that must have gone out on submission.
No, it did not. No. All of my books were on Publishers Marketplace except for Legs Get Led Astray.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Even the indies, you can still, like, the publisher can still submit it to Publishers Marketplace. So like Women was announced there, I'll Tell You in Person was announced there, The Red Zone, and then my next one with Grey Wolf. But that one did not go on submission. That went directly to an editor. But I do have a good story of my like submission nightmare. And that is for my book, I'll Tell You in Person, which was published by Coffee House in 2016. Yeah, when I look back on what happened during that submission, I still get anxiety. It was not, I do not have fond memories of it. So I was working with an agent at the time. She's no longer an agent, and she was really excited about me. She had read my book, Women. She wanted me to do another essay collection. I was obsessed with essays. I was obviously totally down. I was excited. So I wrote the essay collection that would evolve into I'll Tell You in Person, but you know how it is. The first draft was so thin, just so thin and terrible. And I was a new writer. I mean, how old was I? 27 or so, 27, 28. So I sent it to my agent. I'm like, oh, do you think it's ready? And she's like, almost. She was like overly optimistic about me. So I did another draft, and I can't quite remember how long I worked on this. Let's say a year. It still was not ready. I mean, I knew in my heart it wasn't ready, but she told me it was. And so I thought, wow, maybe she sees something in me that I don't see. Like, maybe I'm a genius. Like I was like,
Yeah.
I was like, holy shit. She thinks I'm just the best writer. And okay, I think it's bad, but if she thinks it's good, like she's the agent. So she brought it out to all the publishers, like all the big publishers and the imprints and everybody. And the rejections started to roll in, and some of them were actually really helpful. I think I might have used some in class with you actually, because I got these amazing rejection letters that like went through every essay, and it was really like a
Nice.
craft lesson on essay writing. So that was fine. It was still sort of a bummer, especially because my agent had said things like, "Let's pop the champagne," and like, "You're gonna get six figures." Like, it was like a girls episode or something. So, but the worst thing that happened, Courtney, was that there was an editor working at Riverhead. And this editor was new and young, and she was a huge fan of mine. And she wanted to do a book with me so badly. And she knew my work so well. And we sent her the book. And obviously, I was so naive. I'm like, "Oh, this is amazing. Like, Riverhead's going to buy it." And she wrote a long rejection letter. And it was the smartest rejection letter, but like, it was rough. She called it shallow and just said I was capable of so much more. All of these things I agreed with, but I do remember like crying in the shower. And it gets worse from there because
No.
because my agent was like, "Well, do a quick rewrite and let's like submit it to them again." And I was like, "Really?" Like she seemed pretty firm on the no. Like, I think it would take me longer than, like, 3 weeks. It would probably take me, like, 3 years to get it where this editor wants it to be.
Right.
And I also knew the book I was writing. I do have a gift of, like, knowing where my book sort of belongs. I knew this wasn't a mainstream essay collection. It didn't have a hook. It didn't have anything super catchy. I knew it
Mhm.
was sort of quirky, so I was thinking, like, "Why would they publish this book?" And not, like, in a self-deprecating way. I just knew. So, she had me do another draft to send to Riverhead, which is just already bad because then you're writing with Riverhead in mind and you're just totally panicked. So, I did that.
I mean, was it just a cursory rewrite where you're just kinda tweaking?
Well, it was based on her feedback, the
Oh,
rejection
okay.
letter.
Uh-huh.
And she had said, like, "Send it to me again if there's a massive rewrite or something," I think. So, we submitted it again and she rejected it again. It was terrible. And I had to go to an this is pre-pandemic, so all of these meetings were in person. I was so broke and I had to take the train down to the city to
Oh.
sit with people to reject me to my face. So I sat with this editor and she rejected it again. We were in this bright room with fluorescent lights and I was like, "Thank you." um, and previous to that, I had had another day where my agent had set up meetings with me with everybody. So this day was like a horrible day. I had meetings from, let's say, like 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. I met with HarperCollins and Penguin Random House and Emily Bessler books and like back to back to back. So it started with like meeting an editor for a green juice and her telling you why she couldn't do the book, and then meeting someone for a coffee and them telling you why they couldn't do the book, and
Oh
meeting
my
someone
god.
for lunch. And I went to lunch with an editor at Harper Perennial or HarperCollins. And I had my manuscript in my backpack. And I'll never forget, but we sat outside this restaurant and he said, I think I've talked about this class. He said, "Your manuscript it's a Chevy when it could be a Cadillac." And I was like, "Okay." And I went to the bathroom and I threw it in the carpet, like being really dramatic.
Oh.
I mean, it was just like a random printout. It wasn't like meaningful, but I was like, "Fuck this." I just felt like you feel like shit going to these meetings, especially like you're spending money. Like I was broke. For
Yeah.
them, they're just going to like a fun lunch. For me,
It seems inhumane to do, like, 4 of them in a day.
I know. It kind of now reminds me of like the whole meme of like this could have been an email. It's like,
Yes.
why am I now I have to sit through lunch with you? It was really, really bad. But that same day, I had a meeting with Coffee House, which Emily Books, like Emily Gould had
Uh-huh.
started Emily Books. And Emily and I were hanging out a bit at the time. And I told her what I was going through. And she said, "Why didn't your agent send it to us?" And I said, "That's a really good question." And she's like, "Can you send it to me?" I'm like, "I would love to send it to you." Like, I love Coffee House and I love
Mhm.
Emily Books. So that happened without my agent. And I had to kind of convince my agent, like, I know they're an indie, but they're really great. I think this book might be good for them. So
Uh-huh.
she set up a meeting with them. So I went to a meeting with Emily Gould and Caroline Casey, who was a marketing person at Coffee House at the time. And that meeting was incredible. And they were the ones who were like supportive and giving me feedback on the book and loved it and wanted to do the book. So then it turned into conversations between my agent and I, where my agent still wanted me to do another draft and send it again to all the big publishers. And I know she wasn't
Why?
my agent
Yeah.
anymore after that. I mean, and to her credit, I'm like, wow, she had so much faith in me. But again, if it were a different book, if it were a different essay collection with different stories or something more marketable, I would have done it. But I knew, I'm like, this is like a quirky essay collection.
Mhm.
This is a coffee house book. And what was so sad about this, Courtney, is like going with Coffee House should have been this amazing like feeling. Like Coffee House is incredible.
Yeah. You work with your friend as an editor, like, yeah.
Yeah, they were treating me so well, like offering me in advance. But what was so sad is that like it looked like a failure based on how I was set up.
Yeah.
Right? If I had sold it to Coffee House on my own, it would have been like, holy shit, I sold a book. But I had to go through that. So because I had to have all these conversations with my agent and sort of convince her that even though it was less money, I wanted to go with Coffee House,
Uh-huh.
which ultimately was 1,000,000% the right choice. Yeah, so that's the story of I'll tell you in person. And this played out for a few months. Like this was like, from we probably submitted it. Oh, she submitted my book to publishers on April Fool's Day, which I already thought was like bad.
Bad omen.
And then I think by the time I signed with them, it was like July or August. Like it was intense.
Okay.
Um, but I felt great about going with Coffee House and then also sort of sad that I had like let my agent down and I was supposed to get six figures and like all of this stuff she had been saying. But I also knew who I was and I trusted that that was where the book belonged. And that was like that book sold really well for me. I had an amazing experience. It was how it was supposed to be. And those meetings I went on, I'm sure were, I don't know if they were good experiences, but
They're their own essay for
they're a
another
story.
time.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's what happened.
So I'm kind of surprised, like, if I were a professional editor and knowing your work before, if I were the girl at Riverhead, I would want to like help you shape the book into what I saw as its potential. So I guess that's just like the confusing part as a writer.
So here's what it is. She wanted that so badly. And I think we would have worked so well together. But that one person has to convince an
Yes.
entire room of people.
Yes.
And that's where it's hard, especially if that person's new at their job. So for her, she had just started there. She was younger than I was. Like, so she didn't have the sway or the pull. Or even if they do have the sway and the pull, they could go into that meeting. And if, 6 out of 10 people are like, no, this isn't going to work for our team, it's a no. So that's where I think things are hard because sometimes I do think the editor wants to acquire the book,
Mhm.
but if they can't get the whole team behind it, they can't. And so it's sort of a flawed system.
So then Red Zone was next, and did that
Mhm.
just go to Soft Skull right away, or did that ever go out, like
That didn't go out either. I was with a different agent at that time. I really wanted it to go out really, really badly. I didn't have a book proposal. I just had a draft of the
but it's,
book.
like, so unique, like, of a
Yeah.
premise.
I I think if I had had the right agent who knew how to market that book or think about that book, talk about that book, pitch that book, something could have happened with it, but that wasn't the experience I had. I had the opposite. So I was with a different agent by then, and that agent sort of ghosted me and then finally admitted, like, I don't have a vision for this book. And I was like, now you tell me. So I was really disappointed. This was like a big agent who represents all of these writers you and I both love. So I thought that that was like my ticket. It's never, whenever you think it's your ticket, it's not. Um, so So that didn't go out, and that was disappointing, but also, again, went with an indie. I had had a relationship, or I knew who Yuka Igarashi was because she was an editor of my friend's book, and my friend Chelsea Martin's book, who's been on this podcast, and I thought Yuka might see something in the material
Mhm.
because Chelsea's book was so weird and this book was weird. So I cold sort of emailed her, like, hey, remember me? I have this book. I was wondering if you're interested. And what I will say is Yuka did end up buying it, and Yuka ended up also buying my book for Grey Wolf, where she is now. But even that process with a known editor, even with this latest Grey Wolf book, I think I reached out to Yuka like July of 2022, and it was almost a year later that she felt comfortable bringing it to her team.
What?
Mhm. We had conversations, we had emails, we went back and forth, like getting the manuscript more in shape. Like she wasn't just like, "Yeah, I want to do a book with you. Let me pitch it to my team." It like, and that's with my second book with her. So even that isn't like a shoe in. And even that, she still has to present it to her team, and her team could still say no. So yeah, it's hard out there. What happened recently, really quickly, because you'll think this is interesting because I think you reviewed this book, or we connected over my book Women. Just now I'm on my third agent who is Epic, and she took the rights. Women has been out of print, so the rights reverted back to me. So she took the rights of that out to the big publishers, and it was a more straightforward submission process where I got meetings with a bunch of interested places and publishers, and the publishers made offers, and I ended up going with Harper Perennial, which is funny because that's the same bad
Good
meeting
for
I had.
you.
Thank
Yes.
you. It's going to
That's
be
so
out
great.
during Pride of 2020, June 2024. Yeah, it's really exciting. It's going to have a new forward. But I finally got to have the experience, and I didn't have to go down to the city and like get rejected for once. Like I got to just sit on Zoom, and they all told me why they wanted the book. And I'm like, wow, this is the opposite experience of all of my like the past 10 years.
That is
So
like
that,
the
that felt
dream.
good.
Yeah.
It actually was the most. I went out to dinner with my mom. I was like, that was the most ideal situation I've ever had in the writing industry ever. And they are far and few between. So you take what you can get. But yeah, that felt like some good karma after like all of the shit.
So, what's your advice to me and all the other struggling writers on submission? Either like technical advice, like don't send your agent a crazy list or
Yeah.
whatever, or like anxiety advice.
Yeah, it's tough. I think doing this is so smart because you have a place to talk to other people. So you're not as isolated as I feel like I was back in 2016, just driving friends crazy on the phone. This is actually genius. I think distractions are huge. I don't know. I know that some writers do the whole like work on another project thing. I find that so hard. I find that
Yeah.
so hard. And I think accepting that whatever idea you have in your head, it is probably going to go in the craziest paths and directions that you couldn't even imagine. And it's fun. Like that's actually part of the fun is like, okay, I have no idea what's going to happen. So I really don't have that much advice for you because it's so hard. But yeah, talking to other writers to keep you sane, distract yourself in any healthy ways that you can. Um, go back for more, go back for more rejections like I did. I don't think anyone should do what I did of like, yeah, I'll revise it again. Da-da-da, sitting there. It was so like Hannah Horvath. It's like, who do you think you are? You think Riverhead is just going to give you this six-figure deal because you like changed the opening of an essay? You fucking moron. It's just I wish I had a video camera to like see me at those meetings. I'm just like
Dude,
they
if I would have published
were
Women, I would have been like, yeah, the next thing's gonna be
I guess. I just this book was not it was not it. Like the only time now I'm happy with how the book came, but that's after I sold it like to Coffee House. Like they helped me make it good, but it was not good. So, yeah, and also like being prepared to go on when you go on your meetings to be prepared. That's another thing I would just show up be like, "Hey, what's going on?" Like I didn't know what to ask. I didn't know anything. So,
what's
yeah.
being prepared, like researching them or
Yeah, researching them, thinking in advance what questions you have for them instead of making it like I don't know, for me, I would just kind of wing it. Or I'd get off a meeting and be like, oh, I should have asked this. So writing down questions in advance, knowing who they are, knowing their names, like knowing who's going to be there. One time I went to a meeting, I thought it was just the editor, and then the entire team was there. So just being somewhat prepped and remembering you don't just have to wow them, like you also need to like them. They have to wow you a little bit too. So you're allowed to also have questions, like taking some of the power back, you know?
Yes, I love
Yeah.
that. That's a good place.
Instead of like showing up desperate of like, please, anything. Yeah.
That's how I feel though.
I know.
Any final submission thoughts, or did we cover it?
That's it. Just be persistent. Like keep doing it. Like it's not going to get anywhere if you give up after a few submissions. Like it's really not for the faint of heart.
Thanks for joining me for this episode of The Bleeders. Writing is so much better with friends. I'm your host, Courtney Kosak, and hey, let's connect on social media. I am at Courtney Kosak. Last name is Kosak. I am on Twitter. I am on Instagram. I am on Blue Sky. I am on TikTok. I'm everywhere, baby. And of course, make sure you get Chloe's book, Trying a Memoir. It is out August 5th, which is basically one day after this is published. So you can order your copy and you will get it ASAP. And I can attest, I've already read it. It is so, so good. You're going to gobble it right up, probably in one night. So make sure you order that. And make sure you're signed up for the Bleeders Companion Substack for all kinds of newsletter exclusives. I have a link for that in the episode description. I have a paid subscription for the Bleeders where I take you behind the scenes of all my best bylines. I'm taking you behind the scenes of my debut memoir, Girl Gone Wild, which will be out with Trio House Press in March of 2026. And I've written about my return to stand-up comedy, how I got ready to crush my showcase, my MFA, and whether or not I think it is worth it. I also have a few mini workshops behind the paywall. So again, there is a link for the Substack in the episode description. I hope you join me over there, and I hope you join me again here next week for another inspiring episode. In the meantime, happy bleeding!